I am tired of the white tears. This election is the best example of why y'all are so afraid of diversity, equity, and inclusion, because then you can't have a simple-minded, underqualified white man somehow end up ascending. Instead, you've got to pay attention to the qualified black woman that is on the other side. And with that, I will yield. We right now have a white supremacist that is sitting in the White House. He is backed up by other white supremacists. And if you really want to know who the criminals are in this country, you can Google it. You don't have to trust me. But the people that commit 80% of the most violent crimes in this country are white supremacists. Yet for whatever reason, they sit and they serve at the pleasure of the president. They are the ones that were there on January 6th.
This lady hates white people, especially the white men. Every time she opens her mouth, she's talking about white people. Every time. Like, this, it's gotta be bad for the mental health of an individual to be so obsessed with race all the time, right? Like, one of the reasons I make videos on this channel is to point out how insane it is and how racist and crazy some of these people are, because I believe it's for the betterment of society to be less race obsessed. We can still know the history, learn the history, celebrate our differences. I think that that's all cool. You know, I'm not one of those, oh, we're all human. Yes, we are, but we are different too, and that's okay. But not like this. This is just ridiculous. And I can't believe that more people don't express outrage. I really feel like the Democrats are doing a terrible job. It's like they always lean into these crazies instead of calling them out like, hey, you can't just go around talking bad about white people or whatever group that you don't like, especially mentioning this specific race. Like, I don't want to go and be like, man, white people are so bad. Like, imagine somebody else doing that. Like, I'm tired of these black tears and this black mediocrity, which is exactly what Jasmine Crockett is saying here. Without further ado, let's go ahead and react to this.
Tired of the white tears. Listen, if you are competent, you are not concerned. When I walk into Congress every single day, you know why I don't feel a way and why you can't make me doubt who I am is because I know that I had to work 10 times as hard as they did just to get into the seat.
You gotta slap yourself. Slap yourself.
When you look and you compare me to Marjorie Taylor Greene or me to Lauren Boebert, there is no comparison. And that is,
well, yeah, you're ghetto and they're not.
Is the life that we have always lived. So the only people that are crying are the mediocre white boys that have been beaten out by people that historically have had to work so much harder. This is why they don't want us to have education. This is why they are trying to literally say we won't fund the HBCUs, because they know that if they've already gone after affirmative action and they're saying, you know what, don't allow them to come in to say these.
They found that affirmative action was directly allowing Black and Hispanics to get into schools with lower GPAs, much lower, and lower SAT scores and ACT scores than Asian and white, especially the Asian, who in some cases would have over a 4.0 and nearly perfect SAT scores and still wouldn't get into Ivy League schools.
So in the 80s, they began considering race in their admissions decisions. It worked. By the 90s, they would chart students on a social diversity index. If you were low income and a minority and had moderate grades and test scores, you were in. If you were high income and white, you needed higher scores to get in. Some colleges, like the UC Davis School of Medicine, used quotas, utilizing a similar filtering system, but a few spots would be reserved for minority applicants. In the late 70s, a white student named Backy fell here. Not good enough to get in among other white applicants, but with higher test scores and GPA than the minority students who got in. He sued, claiming discrimination. It made it to the Supreme Court, he won, and was admitted.
So affirmative action was completely fraudulent, and you cannot have a system that is beneficial towards any group. If the argument is that white people were benefited at one point in history, to just turn around and make it where now Black people and Hispanic people are benefited, that is not an adequate fix. The point is supposed to be for it to be equal.
These PWIs, as we call them, don't allow them to come into these institutions. We know why they created the HBCUs in the first place. It was because they wouldn't allow us into the white institutions. And so now they're not allowing us in. And now they're saying, you know what, we're also going to defund the HBCUs. You know why? Because they don't want any more Kamala Harrises. They don't want any more Jasmine Crockett's. But I got news for them. I don't care what they do. We will fight to the end to make sure that we get our due. Because again, if you want to talk about the people that shouldn't be in this country, you probably need to look in the mirror. Because the last time I checked, the Native Americans who Summer ICE have been rounding up, or the Puerto Ricans who are absolutely Americans, listen, the only people that came and colonized this place are your ancestors, Trump.
Well, Jasmine Crockett's right about one thing. They definitely don't want people like her and Kamala Harris to rise up through the ranks coming out of these garbage schools that are allowing these extremely weak and highly uneducated fools, in her case, ghetto as hell, to come out and be representatives of Congress, for example. People like Jasmine Crockett are a complete embarrassment. As a matter of fact, she doesn't know her history. This lady, as I mentioned, just hates white people so much that she doesn't understand or know any facts. Donald Trump is literally the only president in United States history that is not a descendant of slave owners.
A new report from Reuters today found that every single living president is a descendant of slave owners, except for one, and it's not Barack Obama. It turns out Donald Trump is the one who didn't actually have ancestors that owned slaves. And they called him a racist, they called his family racist. The report also confirmed that Elizabeth Warren is not either, in fact, a Native American, as if we needed any more proof. But her family did own slaves too.
This whole argument about DEI is because it's been levied to put people in place that are not qualified. Look at how they introduced the previous White House Secretary, Karine Jean-Pierre, starting with her race and her sexual preferences.
As you all know, she will be the first Black woman, the first out LGBTQ plus person to serve in this role, which is amazing because representation matters.
Clearly, the president believes in representation matters.
While she's trying to talk about people who are unqualified, let's take a look at who Joe Biden nominated as the FAA administrator in his cabinet. This guy was completely clueless.
You ever flown a plane?
Thank you for the question, Senator. No, I have never flown a plane.
So you weren't a military pilot or a commercial airline pilot?
No, Senator.
Have you ever worked for an airline?
No, Senator.
Have you ever worked as an air traffic controller?
No, Senator.
You ever worked for a company that manufactures airplanes?
No, Senator.
You ever worked for a company that fixes airplanes?
No, Senator.
FAA administrator is a specialized position. I'm not qualified to be FAA administrator. I have no idea how to fly a plane. No one in their right mind would put me in charge of aviation safety because I don't have that experience. I suspect most of the members of this committee are in a similar position. The American people, when they think about aviation safety, when they think about, I played in this committee, a Southwest Airlines and FedEx plane almost colliding at Austin's airport. They want an FAA administrator who knows why those planes crash and knows how to fix it to keep them safe. And with all respect, Mr. Washington, it gives no comfort to the flying public that their pilot might be a transgendered witch, but doesn't actually know how to prevent the plane from crashing into the ground and killing them. I believe your record is woefully lacking. And in fact, you have zero aviation safety experience.
This is one of the reasons why people say they don't like DEI. Look at Karine Jean-Pierre, look at this Mr. Washington fella, look at Kamala Harris. She was picked specifically for this reason. Ketanji Brown Jackson, Joe Biden said he was going to get a black woman for that. And for VP position, he said he was going to get a woman.
I committed that if I'm elected president, have an opportunity to appoint someone to the courts, I'll appoint the first black woman to the courts. It's required that they have representation now. It's long overdue. Secondly, if I'm elected president, my cabinet, my administration will look like the country. And I commit that I will, in fact, I'll pick a woman to be vice president. There are a number of women who are qualified to be president tomorrow. I would pick a woman to be my vice president.
He just said, I'm going to pick a target group and then I'm just going to pick somebody from that group. That's not being completely blind and neutral to a person's gender, a person's race, and anything else in between. This is specifically targeting specific groups of people and then picking from that group, which is not how you get the most qualified person. If I'm reviewing people for a job, I don't just say, well, I'm only going to look at the women in the pool of candidates and I'm not going to look at the men. Or I'm only going to look at the blacks. I'm not going to look at the whites. I'm only going to look at the whites and not the blacks. That is so stupid. And that's basically what these people have been doing. It's literally been on job applications and all sorts of stuff in the past, leading all the way up till now, not in the recent past. Probably still out there at some places, right? So to say and imply that this is not based off of merit is just a blatant lie. The Democrats love to conflate things, especially this ghetto superstar. They love to try to do things like act like DEI is related to blacks and black people, which to an extent it is, but that's not all. It's a big thing that's more so about the LGBTQ community. Take a look at what Caroline Leavitt had to say about this.
Through USAID over the past several years, these are some of the insane priorities that organization has been spending money on. $1.5 million to advance DEI in Serbia's workplaces, $70,000 for a production of a DEI musical in Ireland, $47,000 for a transgender opera in Colombia, $32,000 for a transgender comic book in Peru. I don't know about you, but as an American taxpayer, I don't want my dollars going towards this crap, and I know the American people don't either, and that's exactly what Elon Musk has been tasked by President Trump to do, to get the fraud, waste, and abuse out of our federal government. Thank you, guys.
It's always something about LGBT, this, that, and the third, transgender this, drag this. It's not just about serving black people or people of color, and when it does, a lot of times it's biased and it's used in a way that it should not be. There's nothing wrong with trying to create some level of fairness where fairness is not present. But if the pendulum swings too far, then there needs to be course correction. And I think that the fact that you have people that are so animated and so ridiculous like this doesn't portray a great picture of DEI. To try to look so inwardly at yourself, like look at how this lady is acting. The fact that she would have such an inflated ego to think that she is a strong representative of the black community or black female community is just laughable. This certainly is not the best that we got, as somebody who's going to get on there and be loud and obnoxious and ghetto as hell every time the camera is on. And I know, because I've seen Jasmine Crockett over the years, she's not always like this. I'm thinking that she's teeing up for her presidential run or something, or maybe she just loves attention. I don't know what the hell is this lady's problem, because she's not always like this. It's just how she is when she's ready to rant and act a fool when the cameras are on. There's times when she's perfectly calm and cool and not like this. So I don't know why she always tries to play this stuff up. Probably just for attention and to garner support from ignorant people, because people like this a lot of times are actually a little bit smarter than people get them credit for in terms of trying to build up their popularity. And it may just be a case of knowing her audience. Like, people like me are not going to be the most popular with the black community. I'm not up here acting ghetto and crazy on camera every day. But Jasmine Crockett, maybe she feels like she's cracked the code. Maybe she feels like if I act as ignorant and stupid as I possibly can all the time and denigrate white people all the time, like unfortunately a lot of black people do in real life, then she feels like she's going to continue to rise in the ranks of popularity. Unfortunately, if she ever plans on winning any bigger elections outside of congressional in her district, she's going to need to actually win white people over. It's impossible for her to win without them. And I don't see the rhetoric that she's using being conducive to career advancement for her. It's certainly not going to help other people who see her as a role model to even think the way that she thinks, or maybe she pretends to think, I don't know, much less to act the way that she acts out here in a world where you're not an insulated politician who can, I guess, get away with it because you were elected. Majority of people can't say these sort of things out loud and not deal with some sort of repercussions. But it's a damn shame that we have so many people out here, or that we've come to a time period where this type of rhetoric is seen as okay. In my opinion, it's disgraceful, and people like her should not be in Congress. She says she's not going away. Well, personally, I think it's not a matter of if you're going away, Jasmine. I think it's a matter of when. You just got to get somebody in there who's actually more articulate than you, not as racist as you, and then I think you're toast. And it's sad that we don't have somebody like that already to compete against you, but trust me, your time is coming. The days for all that DEI ish is over, and we want some real talent up in there, and you're not what that looks like. I hate to break it to you, sis, but you ain't the one. But these are just my thoughts, guys. Let me know what you guys think. Drop a like on the video. Subscribe to the channel if you're new. I appreciate you watching the Black Anomaly Rising Channel. I'm out.
FAA says people with severe disabilities are most underrepresented segment of the workforce, and they want them in, and they want them. They can be air traffic controllers. I don't think so. The FAA's website states they include hearing, vision, missing extremities, partial paralysis, complete paralysis, epilepsy, severe intellectual disability, psychiatric disability, and dwarfism all qualify for the position of a controller of airplanes pouring into our country, pouring into a little spot, a little dot on the map, a little runway. The initiative is part of the FAA's diversity and inclusion hiring plan. Think of that. The initiative is part of the FAA's diversity and inclusion hiring plan, which says diversity is integral to achieving FAA's mission of ensuring safe and efficient travel. I don't think so. I think it's just the opposite. The FAA's diversity push includes focus on hiring people with severe intellectual and psychiatric disabilities. That is amazing.